What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Pod at the Palace, a Friday episode, and it's a little weird. I got to be honest. Wilkerson and Scottie Bordelon here with you, and this is not a live breaking news episode of the pod, which it feels like we've just been doing one of those every 24 to 48 hours. But no, there hasn't been a commitment yet. We'll see what the shelf life on this particular episode is as we talk about other things. But I don't know, Scotty, does this feel a little bizarre to you to just talk ball?
Just being back in the podcast room feels weird.
Instead of home.
For sure, we hadn't been in here. I think I mentioned before since Billy Richmond committed, which was, I mean, we could now officially say it was last month, but it feels like it was a week ago?
Yeah.
I guess.
Yep. Yeah. That's right.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I'm glad to not have a headset on, taking anybody's drive-through orders. Hopefully you can't hear me breathe other than when I'm talking.
Yeah, it's been kind of crazy just being on pins and needles a little bit in terms of just wondering when something was going to pop. But, man, it's been exciting. We've had it's been an eventful week, even though it honestly feels like I kind of sound like a fan right now, but it feels like it's been a month since something's happened.
Yeah.
And that's not true. It's just been a couple days. But when you get Jonas Adu and John L. Davis on back-to-back days, I mean, you're spoiled a little bit, you know?
Yeah, for sure. It's just impossible for that pace to keep up, because there's, like, if it was football and you had a full roster to put together, one, you're in trouble, and you're probably not going to have a team in the fall, but you have to keep that pace. But when you've only got 13 spots, you get 2 in 2 days. It's gotta quiet down, ratchet down a little bit.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So what we wanted to do before we got into the weekend is just hop on and I don't know, it's almost like a State of the Union type of address for the basketball program. Just identifying kind of where they're at, how this thing's looking, what the needs are, and maybe some targets that they can go after here. And hopefully it's a little bit evergreen, because a commitment could come at any time for a number of reasons. I mean, you think about a guy like Adut Thiero, who's been on campus and he's left now. At what point does he make a decision?
Right.
And when he does, when will that be Arkansas? Is Jordan Burks going to decide to pull the trigger and get this thing done? And then has Cal been operating, in silence, which he's proven to be very good at, because we never know when a surprise could pop up here. So, but we couldn't leave anybody empty-handed going into the weekend. We had to hop in here and talk about some stuff. But Scotty, what we do know is the pool of available transfers to pick from is finalized. It's done. The portal is closed for business. And I like that they have adjusted some of the rules this year in terms of, like, if you think about past years, it was, okay, the portal window closes, but a grad transfer can enter the portal whenever he wants to.
Right.
And, and you're still waiting on some guys who might pull out of the NBA draft process. But if they're going to do that, their name is already in the
it's
portal.
in there for sure. Yeah, there's going to be no Chandler Lawson type of deal.
Right.
This year.
Exactly. What you see in the portal right now is what you get. And so whoever is going to round out the roster for the Razorbacks, those guys are available to be recruited and pursued right now. So it gives us at least a little bit of an idea of what we're talking about. And I like it, because last year you were wondering, is Grant Nelson is he also gonna enter the transfer portal, or is he, just gonna stay in the draft, because he wasn't even available at this time yet last year, and you knew Arkansas might be involved there. And then, there was so much stuff. I remember this time last year, it was, Oscar Shibwe, he's really not an NBA player. He might hit the portal. Adama Sanogo, you never know. And so you think you've got it narrowed down, but then in the back of your mind, you're like, yeah, but the whole conversation will change if one of these guys enters. Sure. Don't have to worry about that now. Yeah. So the guys we talk about are going to be relevant, and we won't be leaving anything out, hopefully. But I like it.
Yeah, I kill so much time during the day just going to On3 and the transfer portal player rankings and stuff, and just, you can kind of filter by position and just kind of come up with almost like a dream list of dudes that you feel like would fit certain needs.
Yes.
And it's been a little bit weird, honestly. Cal, he moves silent. And like I mentioned on a previous live from my bedroom pod that we've done, that, you know, he kind of like works during the day and then it feels like stuff drops at night. And so I feel like that's going to happen at some point again. But it's like, I don't remember really the last time that I added anybody to like a contact, like as a contact to our recruiting big board. That's been a little bit weird, but it's almost like they're going after guys. It's not so much like, hey, Arkansas is talking to me or whatever, but yeah, what you see on in the portal now is who you got to choose from. There's some, and it's crazy how many fantastic names are in it still at this point. Like there's been a lot of guys that have been plucked, like Umar Ballo. Mm-hmm. You can throw John L. Davis into that. Like there's just been a lot of really good talent taken already, but there's still some guys that can be difference makers on teams that are widely available.
Yeah. Oh man, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. So it is kind of fascinating to see, that Arkansas, I mean, they've got 6 guys now on scholarship, all 6 guys who I think can help you. And, you're excited about what's going on. It's half the roster.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think that, because I was looking earlier, I was exchanging messages with a North Carolina recruiting writer that I know about Adou Thiero, because people were wondering, is he going to take a visit to UNC? They were surprised he even came to Arkansas, because it depends on who you talk to in Thiero's camp, whether or not they rock with Cal. So there might be a little bit of divide there, I guess. And so we'll see who wins out from that conversation.
That's interesting.
It's very interesting. But they were a little bit surprised about that. And I was asking about, is Thiero taking a visit there? Nothing scheduled yet. And so nobody really knows exactly what's going on there. But at any rate, one of the questions that was asked to me was, well, when does Arkansas's summer session start? And I was like, man, it's just a few weeks away. It's kind of crazy, because these guys have to start making decisions if they want to get on campus and be there for summer workouts. I think Arkansas's first summer session starts on the 28th of May. So that's just a little over, 3 weeks here away. And then, you need the squad on campus. You can make some late additions or whatever, but you want the bulk of your guys there to start building chemistry. Yeah. It's a brand new staff. This summer is going to be very, very important for this program. North Carolina starts on the 15th of May, by the way.
Wow.
So, and that's very early. I don't know if they do the trimester thing or how that works, but that was surprising to me. But yeah, I mean, you still got half a roster to build. You like where you're at with your foundation, but there's still going to be a lot of news breaking over the next 2 or 3 weeks here. I think it's going to be wild, man.
Yeah, for sure. I keep waiting on Thiero to happen, and as well as I do, like we've had that story locked and loaded for a while.
Yep.
Had the Jordan Burke story locked and loaded for even longer.
Yeah.
Like I remember we left the office one day, and I think it was Trilly Donovan put in a commitment prediction for Jordan Burks, and then I called you and was like, "Who is that?"
I know, man. No disrespect.
Yeah, respect.
The more I've looked into him, and I actually like him as a depth piece. I really do. But no, you're 100% right.
Yeah, he's intriguing as a depth piece for sure. No hate. He hooped against Vandy.
That's right.
When they went and blew no pun intended again, blew the doors off of them on the road. But yeah, something might pop and it might not generate the interest that people, it might not be the pop that you want. But there's you fill out a roster, you're probably gonna have some of those, but you'll probably be at some point next season happy that you have those pieces.
Yeah. That's a great segue, I think, because I get the sense that Arkansas is going to make at least 2, maybe 3 more like significant additions to the roster, and then you're 100% right. You got to fill out the depth pieces and make sure you've got all your bases covered. So that's kind of the premise of what we wanted to talk about today, and we're going to do that. But before we do, I want to take a quick sec to talk to you guys about our friends over at Signature Bank. Signature is a privately held boutique bank that's redefining the banking experience in our region. They blend the warmth and familiarity of a community bank with the sophistication of a commercial bank and the expertise of private banking to deliver unmatched levels of service. If you're looking for a reason to bank with Signature, man, there's plenty of them. They're personally invested, they're business-minded, community-focused, right-sized, and forward-thinking. Make sure you get over and check out one of their Arkansas locations or visit the website www.signature.bank to learn more. Okay.
I didn't hold up my sign this time.
Your sign got abused.
Look what happened to this. Look what happened.
Yeah.
I'm blaming an intern.
The interns bedazzled your
My sign.
your signature bank sign. It's unbelievable.
Out of pocket.
We just can't have it.
Yeah.
We'll have to give him a stern talking
I had
to.
to talk to Parker when we're done.
Yeah, was it Parker? You think it was Parker?
He has to know something about
He's
it.
looking in here right now, so
Yeah,
I think it was probably him. That's all right. It was either him or Tyler Glasscock, so we'll see. At any rate.
Might have been Daniel Shee.
But it might have been. Yeah.
Or Landon.
We're going to get to the bottom of
I think it
this.
was Landon. I think he sits here during the intern pod.
None of them can be trusted. Before we talk about specific guys, let's kind of prioritize the needs for Arkansas. If we're operating under the premise, first of all, do you agree with what I said? And if you don't, that might be a good thing for conversation. But I'm thinking 2 to 3 more big additions, impact starter / high rotation minutes kind of guys being added to this roster.
Yeah. What is it? That would be like another guy who can play the 1. Another guy that would fit as a 3.
Yep.
Ideally, who could make a couple of threes a night.
Some jumpers.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
And then a 4 that maybe blows you away.
Yeah. I think so,
and
too.
then your front court dude is at that point it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think.
I would love to see him get a starting caliber 4-man who can play some 5.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if it's a matchup thing or if, knock on wood, heaven forbid, Adu rolls an ankle and he's not available one game. You've got to be able to kind of cover your bases there.
Yeah,
so I think it'd be really important.
I think that's perfect way to put it. You're always a rolled ankle away from like the guy on the bench being in the game where you just slide everybody down a position, but you still got to throw somebody else in there
right
that you feel comfortable with. So yeah, the depth piece to that it's crucial.
Yeah, and so if we're kind of thinking in terms of impact additions, and those are the 3 areas that you identified, or the exact 3 that I identified, how would you rank them in importance? Like what do you think? What do you think the biggest deal is for them to go out and accomplish of the 3?
I almost want to say it's that 4 spot.
Yeah,
because you could never have enough quality big men. I don't feel like. And then it's like, you get 3 or 4 really good big guys. Typically, unless you're coaching the team, like you're only going to play, 2 at a time. But you just see like front court play be such a big deal in March. Obviously, guard play is too. But you need an anchor.
Yep.
Or anchors around the rim. And then I might even put some shooting, like some plus shooting, second, because I feel like between Boogie and Nelly, like I feel like you're okay at the 1, but I think you could always, I almost don't even want to say it, but like what if Boogie by chance is, he gets to the college level and it takes him some time
right
to get adjusted, which I don't think that's going to be the case, but there's always that
you never know.
That off chance. You'd like to have another guy who could, handle it well and feel really confident with. And I think a guy like DJ Wagner makes a world of sense.
No doubt.
And he's got college experience, so that's a plus. But I think it would be like, if I had to rank them, I would go like a 4-man shooting. And the shooting part it's like right there below the 4 for me. I feel like Nelly can really shoot it, and you got some other guys on that board that can shoot it, but I would feel better about a guy who could just come in games and maybe it's a 3-and-D guy.
Right.
I think that'd be really big.
And that's the part of the equation. And first of all, for anybody listening out there, we did not talk about this before we started recording. Scotty stole my shtick, so I don't have a lot to add to that because I do agree. Like that's kind of how I got it ranked.
I looked at your laptop when you were on that long call.
Yeah, but that's what makes it a little bit interesting to me about the pursuit of Adut Thiero, because he's not a 3-and-D unless that jumper actually comes along and blossoms the way that people think that it might. And I think we both agree there's a lot of potential there.
Yeah.
But I also think we both agree that they need some proven production from beyond the arc.
Yeah.
And so that's interesting to me, but I think you do it anyway for a guy like the Arrow. And, you know, people go look at the box score and go, like 7-5, whatever, you know, take it or leave it. But there's really a lot to like there. And what strikes me about the Arrow is he's a dude who quite literally he was almost like a point guard by trade his entire life. And then he just kept growing and growing and growing, even got to college and still growing like a weed.
Yeah. And he missed some time last year because of his back, because he's still growing.
Yeah. And now he's a guard in a power forward's body.
He is. Yep.
And that makes him very versatile. And you can, there are very few guys, we said this, I can't remember when we did, maybe it was on one of the lives or on John's show or something, I don't know. But there are very few players in the country that you could legitimately play at all 5 positions at a given time. And a Dude the Arrow is a guy like that. I mean, like, yeah, he'd be a super small ball 5-man, but I mean, Muss had Mason Jones out there running the 5 and in some lineups. So, I mean, you know.
That's a fact.
Like, you could do it, and he's big and strong and physical and could hold his own down there. That type of versatility is huge, and it just changes what you can do with lineup combinations. So while he doesn't fit the profile of maybe some guys we're getting ready to talk about who are, you know, true wings or knockdown shooters or whatever, he's almost in a category of his own in terms of the things he's able to do. And I would love for Arkansas to get him. I don't know if it's going to happen. Again, I think it's almost like a coin flip. It depends on who wins out with his camp and, you know, in the negotiations and the talks there. Arkansas, North Carolina, maybe Pitt, I think are probably the 3 that you got to watch out for there. I kind of had a sense just that, because Arkansas got him on campus, that it might pop, you know, yesterday. That's just kind of the way these things have gone, but that wasn't the case. And I think some people have just automatically written it off because that happened. I would maybe strongly encourage them not doing that because I think there's still a nice likelihood that you wind up getting a dude like the Arrow. So
yeah, and he's kind of like you mentioned. I think it was a good point. Yeah, he can guard like every. I feel like he can guard every position fairly well. Like obviously, I think 3s and 4s he'd be best at. But you know, if he emergency switch, he can step out and take on a 1 or a 2 or whoever. He's kind of like a hybrid guy that could be like a legitimate hybrid if that jumper comes along. Like he's an obvious take. I think if he wants to play for you. And I think there's look, he just finished his sophomore year. That he's still growing, man. That's crazy. And he went from 6'6", 200 as a freshman to 6'8", 222 as a sophomore. And obviously, like, there's still legitimate, like, actual growing pains.
Have you seen the transformation photo that's floated around out there? I remember it coming out last summer, and then somebody sent it to me again. We won't promote it on here, but, I mean, it was, like, shirtless a Dude the Arrow, like, when he got to Kentucky versus going into this past season. He just looks like a completely different human being.
Yeah.
And obviously taller and everything, but just filled out, chiseled. He looks like an NBA player.
He does,
and that's why he's a first round projection in next year's draft.
Yeah.
So would be a good get if they're able to pull that one off. But let's talk about these spots specifically and some guys who are out there and available, and then maybe in the situations where we can handicap the fit and maybe what's realistic and what's not. But let's start with the 4-man because I think we both agree that's really important. I think this is a spot where ideally, you go find yourself a starter. And I like the idea of picking up a starting 4, having Jonas Adu as your starting 5, and then having Z playing a huge role as just the rover there. And like you said, I think that locks up your front court, and you're in a really good spot there. The other thing that I love about this and why it's going to be my favorite part of portal season to follow moving forward, there's so many freaking options.
There is, yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, looking at my notes, and there's like 6 guys I could just be like, yes, please.
Oh, no doubt about it, man. I mean, it's absolutely nuts. Let me ask you, off the top, of all these guys, and we're going to get to every one of them, is there 1 or 2 that strikes you as maybe best fit or makes the most sense?
Yeah, I think Case and Pryor, I think, is an obvious fit.
Yeah.
Omir. But it's funny, like, these guys could play the 4 for you, but they give you different things.
Correct, yes.
And they would still fit perfectly. Pryor's 6'10", likes to get out and run, can shoot it. Would imagine he can block some shots too. I haven't really looked into him much as a defender, but he's like a guard type guy. Like Casey Pryor went into high school at 6 foot flat, showed up to Boise State at 6'10". So he's still got like those guard qualities, even though he's like Kevin Durant-ish, a little bit.
Right.
Omier, I mean, I think like if there's any way you can get him, like he's the guy.
Yeah. He's an absolute monster.
I almost don't even want to say this, but I love Ben Allen Lubin a lot. Maybe he's the fallback option, even though I think he could be a guy that if he was on campus and you miss out maybe on the other guys, I think he could start for you at the 4.
Yeah, no doubt.
He's so fun to watch, man.
He really is. He really is. So let's start with those 3 guys because I like it. I have in my notes, I've got Casey Pryor, the South Florida big man. Scotty's talked about him here. I've got him noted as the best fit. I just think with the makeup of your roster right now, getting a guy with that much versatility, like you mentioned, I mean, he's a guard. He grew like a weed. He can put it on the floor. He can shoot it a little bit.
He almost solves 2 problems for you at once.
Exactly. And I think that would just be huge for the lineup. So there's been Arkansas smoke there, but in fairness, it's been a quiet recruitment for Pryor since he's hit the portal. No known visits to my knowledge. I know he's been spending some time out in Cali, working out. I know he's a Chicago kid. There's some rumblings out there that maybe Cal hopped on a plane and went to visit him. Those aren't confirmed. But there's some dots that can be connected there, so maybe it happened. So I don't know exactly where that's headed. We know that Arkansas has been in touch and they're recruiting him.
Yeah.
But where that's going to go, I don't know. But I agree, man. I think he would be just a terrific fit. Omier, you're right. It's completely different. I mean, this is a dude who, he's got the Justin Smith body on him, which. You love that, 6'7", 240 pounds. He's athletic. He's more versatile, I think, than people give him credit for because he's played kind of a small ball center role for a lot of his career.
Yeah, he has.
4 seasons, 4 years, averaging a double-double, which is absurd. He did it 2 years at Arkansas State, did it 2 years at Miami, went to the Final Four with those guys. He's a hot commodity, and he keeps getting better. Like, he was very much a around-the-basket type of guy. He's improved his ball handling to where he can attack some closeouts against, lumbering centers or whatever. And then now he's knocking down some threes. And it ain't pretty. The shot don't look great, okay? We're not going to lie to you here. But listen, he made 35% of them this past season. He hit almost 1 per game. So that's...
Yeah, he shot about that clip from straight away.
Yes, yeah.
Like, he is very much a top-of-the-key three-point shooter, like a pick-and-pop, trail 3 and transition guy.
Right.
Sure. I think that's about the only way you're comfortable with them putting up a shot from beyond the arc.
Yeah, exactly. Here's what I'll say about Omier. He hit the portal with a do not contact tag, and right away everybody was kind of saying, he's a St. John's lock. Like he's going to go play for Rick Pitino. Is he going to wind up at St. John's? Maybe, but is it that simple? From everything I've gathered, it doesn't sound like that. And even earlier today, I know Eric Bossi, who I think is arguably one of the best in the business over at 24/7 Sports. He was mentioning Arkansas as a team that's been making a push to really get in the mix there.
There you go.
And that's great. Baylor, another school that I've heard a lot of smoke about here recently. Maybe they missed on Jonas Adu. They had their JUCO 7-footer who decommitted, so they're in the market for a big man. Here's the deal with Norchad Omier. If you want him, it's going to come at a price.
Absolutely, man. Yeah.
Have heard several ranges on his NIL asking price today, and it starts at $1.5 million. Ooh. And a lot of times those can be gassed up, but
I don't think that
I kind of believe it in this case. And so if you're Arkansas, you really got to consider how you want your roster to shake out. If you didn't have Jonas Adu already and you didn't have Big Z, then I'd say pay him whatever he wants. Whatever you got to do to get him.
Yeah.
And it's not my money, so I still kind of want him to do that, right? But what makes more sense? Is it really, stretching out the chicken man funds to get Omier, which would give you, it would be hands down, no questions asked, the best front court in the country.
Yeah.
Or can you almost get a Pryor and a wing who can knock down shots or a veteran ball handler or whatever with the same amount of NIL. It's crazy.
Right.
It's almost like salary cap in basketball right now. Like,
yeah, it is.
So it just, I think it kind of depends on the priority, and then like how desperate is everyone else, because you don't have to get in a bidding war for a guy in the front court right now if you're Arkansas, because you already got two really good ones.
For sure.
Baylor might be a little bit more desperate because they don't have one.
Yeah.
Right now.
And they let Adu get off campus.
Exactly. So I don't know. We'll see. If Arkansas gets him, know that they they paid a premium to go get him, and whatever. It is what it is. I was never a Yankees fan because I used to get irritated by the go buy a championship thing.
Yeah.
I don't care. Now, if Arkansas does that, so it's whatever. But it's something to keep an eye on, because I do think NIL for a guy like Omer is a huge, huge factor.
Do you think the next big pop from the portal will let you know what was priority one?
Maybe. Yeah, I could see that.
That's what I'm thinking. Like,
I think I could see that.
If it's, I think the arrow, you take him, Berg's good depth piece.
Right.
Wagner, and if Wagner commits, maybe that they're just be like, we got to shore up the backcourt, just make sure we're just set there.
Yes.
But I think it's like, if it's somebody like outside of those three guys, or maybe you can even throw Wagner out of that. I think that might tell you what they're prioritizing first. It was like, we just this is what we feel like our greatest need is, and so let's go ahead and lock it up.
Yeah.
Type of deal.
No doubt.
But
no doubt.
with some of these recruitments, and Omer might be that way, he might just play tough to get. And so that who knows, it could drag out.
Yeah.
And maybe a shooter or something comes along, and maybe that is priority number 2, but priority number 1 is this guy, but you're still just trying to work it out.
Exactly.
Type of deal. It could take some time.
Sure. And it's we've talked about Pryor and Omer at length, and I think it's probably because they stand out as, maybe the best overall option and then the best overall fit. You mentioned Van Allen Lubin at Vanderbilt, Earmuffs kids. He made Mekhi Mitchell his bitch twice this past season. He's really good, and I think he's a good complement at the 4 for what Arkansas has. He's just an animal on the glass, really quick first step, runs the floor well. He knocked down some threes on the Hogs. He's a nice player.
Yeah, he was 33% on limited attempts.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you're looking for potential connections or ends or whatever, Brad Calipari was on Jerry Stackhouse's staff, Vanderbilt, in a player development role last year. So I'm sure he knows Van Allen Lubin quite well.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
And so at the very least, I would imagine there'd be some contact there to gauge interest, whatever. So I think that's one maybe to keep an eye on, at least early, to see what develops.
He was a guy that I'm surprised it took this long to get in the
Me too.
in the portal, like him and Akor.
Yeah.
Both of those guys.
Right.
I was a little, and Trezarian White, I'll even throw him in there. Like guys that we're, pretty familiar with, that just, we knew while we were watching them during the season, they were going to command a bag in the offseason.
Right.
And just took forever for whatever reason.
Akor, we talked about him all the way back in February when we started doing the big board that's behind you there, and he's a lot of fun. I don't know what it looks like for him. I don't know what the fit looks like at this point with what Arkansas has already done, but he's 6'9", 230-pound big fella who can go get you a double-double, and he shoots, 40-some-odd% from 3 at decent volume.
Yeah, it was 44% on 59.
Yeah, and he's blocking 2 shots per game on top of that. So it's, that was a huge, midnight hour type of entry into the portal. So something there. Arthur Kaluma.
I wrote him down too. Yeah.
Out of Kansas State, who, when he entered the portal from Creighton last year, he was scheduled to go visit Cal and Kentucky. But he popped on his Kansas State visit before that happened. So at the very least, there was interest there, mutual interest there before that happened. So do you rekindle that flame? I think he could be a really good fit. And Kaluma's a dude who can look like an NBA player one night and can be the most frustrating dude in the world the next.
You're not joking.
So,
Yeah.
Sometimes some questionable decision making there, but he's a heck of a talent. And yeah, I mean, the list just goes on and on. Scott, we haven't even talked about like a JT Toppin yet.
Yeah.
Out of New Mexico, who was the Mountain West Freshman of the Year. No relation to the Toppin, so it's not the connection that you might think there with Coach Cal. But
I know you loved his tape when we pulled it up.
ooh, buddy.
My goodness, and it's hard not to.
Yeah, just an incredible
motor.
athlete. Shout out to Richard Patino for getting him in New Mexico, because that dude's he is a high major, like elite type of talent. That was a heck of a find on his part. I know there's a lot of, and he's a Texas kid, and there's a lot of Texas schools that seem to be on him early on.
Yep.
I mean, my goodness, Dylan Mitchell was a guy who we had been talking about, former McDonald's All-American, who's been a full-time starter for 2 years at Texas. I think he's either visiting Miami or fresh off a Miami visit. But, there's some smoke with Arkansas there early. Coleman Hawkins just hit the portal. I'm not as high on Coleman Hawkins as others. I think he's going to wind up staying in the draft personally.
I've got that game that he played against Arkansas in the tournament just too singed in my brain, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he turned it over like a half a dozen times in that Arkansas game.
Right.
I've mentioned this to you when we're not recording, but whenever I've thought about Coleman Hawkins in the past, had a John Mayer lyric come to mind. Who do you love, me or the thought of me?
Yes.
I love the thought of him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But
6'10",
I don't
guard skills.
I don't love his game.
Yeah.
As much as, maybe some others.
Right. No, I'm with you on that one. I got one more other interesting name at that spot to throw at you before we move on. Trevin Brazil. What a weird deal that was.
Right.
What was it? I guess probably, goodness, a month ago or so at this point.
April 8th.
Yeah. He declares for the draft and hires an agent, and I guess it was one of the NCAA approved ones because he's now in the transfer portal.
Yep. It's insurance.
Yeah. I don't see any reunion there with Arkansas. I'd be surprised if that happened. I think he's going to stay in the draft.
If he was to come back to college, somebody's going to have to you got to coach the Missouri out of him.
Yeah.
Still.
Yes. No doubt about it. No doubt, man. Okay. Let's go to the wing. Off guard, wing, whatever. The first name that really, we talked about Adut Thiero, so we don't have to rehash that one. But the next name that I think really stands out to me, and it's probably more of a two, but you probably put the ball in his hands as well, is Wooga Poplar out of Miami. It's interesting because I've heard varying levels of smoke with Arkansas, like to the point of, maybe they're in the mix of the top 3 or 4 schools that's after him, to maybe they're working on getting him in on a visit. So we'll see what comes of that. But people are up and down. I've noticed, especially if we talk about him on the Discord or whatever, some people love them some Wooga Poplar, and some of them really want to pass on that. I think he gives you almost exactly what you need, personally.
Yeah. I wonder what he'll command NIL wise. You know what I'm saying? Because I think you could probably give him good money, but like these kids are after a payday.
If you've been at Miami, you've been getting good money too.
Yes.
So
you're a little bit accustomed to it.
Or at least you were expecting it. Maybe that's why all those guys from Miami are hitting the portal.
Maybe so.
That life wallet money is drying up.
He's interesting, man, because he put up a double on a Georgia. Good game against Kansas State, had 19 and 8 against Kentucky. So Cal's very familiar with Wooga's game,
right?
But he's also had some stinkers. Like in the ACC tournament, he had 3 points, was 1 of 10 from the field, and so like I kind of understand I love him. It doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of gray area.
Yeah,
but I don't think you can ever put a price tag, but you have to now, on a guy who's like got deep tournament run experience.
Yeah,
and
he's played in the Final Four.
Cal needs that.
Yep, I agree.
Just does. He needs a guy he needs guys with like a Jonas Adu and a Nelly Davis that are, they know what beyond the second round looks like.
Sure. Yeah.
Like
And
that
you're 100% right. And it's not guaranteed to work, but the thought of having a Nelly Davis been to a Final Four, Wooga Poplar been to a Final Four in your backcourt, and then a front court that's anchored by a Jonas Adu who has won at a high level in the ACC and was a Zach Edey away from getting to the Final Four this past year.
Yeah.
That's a lot of tournament experience. And what's been the biggest knock on Cal? Because that's what people are going to have to turn to now, because it was, the freshmen want to play for the program, not Coach Cal. And then he flips 3 of them. And then it was, well, he's not going to embrace the transfer portal. He never has. And he goes and gets 2 top 10 guys in 24 hours. And he's going to build out this roster, and it's going to be a contender type of roster. And then it's going to shift to, well, he's past he's washed. He can't win in March. Well,
maybe March know-how should be a priority.
Exactly. Yep. I think that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah.
And, you're only going to have one guy in your backcourt who's been to a Final Four, and you've already got Adu in tow. Yeah, but keep adding to that, man. Sign me up for it. I love the idea of Wooga Poplar personally, so sign me up for that. And, we'll just have to wait and see what it looks like with his recruitment. After that, though, honestly, on the wing, I don't know.
I don't either.
But it's like him and Thiero, and I don't even really call Poplar a wing, but he's 6'5", so
yeah.
Whatever. You probably play him at the 2. You can slide him to the 3 if you need to, whatever.
Well, we put his build was like Mason Jones build.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Looking at these other guys like Chaz Lanier, if we're talking about a sniper, but I think I don't have any reason to think he's headed to Arkansas.
He wants to go play with Darlinstone.
Yeah, he's gonna go play for Rick Barnes or somebody else. Sion James is a name that I wasn't familiar with until maybe yesterday. But I don't know. He's not really a.
I did a Twitter search for him. It was a lot of Duke.
Yeah,
a lot of Duke in the.
This is a Tulane wing out of Tulane, who put up some really good numbers. He's not a high volume 3-point shooter, but he shoots it at a good clip. So I don't know. I mean, that's kind of the one spot where there's not really that many options. Jameer Watkins is an interesting name, transferring out of Florida State. There's some Arkansas connection there because he was at VCU 2 years ago, visited with high school teammate Caleb Battle, and was believed to be a silent commit to Arkansas. And then he winds up going to Florida State. Arkansas takes Jeremiah Davenport. I wonder if they regret the way that played out, because Watkins wound up being Florida State's leading scorer. And just really, I mean, he had a hell of a season. It's his best year by far. And he transferred up from the A-10 to the ACC, averaged almost 16 points per game, 6'7" wing who can really shoot it. And he's a nice player. So I don't know what his recruitment's going to look like. But yeah, in terms of like the depth of options and then just Arkansas connection that you can make right now with the knockdown shooter part of this and the wings, there's really not a whole lot there. And maybe that's why at the arrow is very important.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you look at On3's player portal rankings and you go to shooting guard and best available, the top 4 players, I'll read you their rankings. This is On3's sole ranking.
Okay.
Chaz Lanier, 8. Sion James, 18. Wooga Poplar, 32. And then the 4th guy is Chauncey Jenkins at 99.
Wow. Okay.
So maybe you just need a small forward who can shoot.
Yeah, no doubt.
Or I think we had Chauncey Jenkins identified earlier, but I think Arkansas
we're past that point.
Over the head there.
Yeah.
With him.
Yep. Agreed. And I think that also takes us back to, boy, it sure would be nice if that 4-man that you get can knock down some threes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Which is why a guy like, Kason Pryor's very high up on my list. Let's talk about some experienced veteran ball handlers and let's get out of here for the weekend. Scotty, to me, I think that the answer that makes the most sense and feels the most likely, it's DJ Wagner. I think it's just where I'm at with it.
Yeah.
He's been in and out of USC, but I don't even know if USC has any room left at this point.
No, Eric's already got, I think I looked the other day, he's got 18 transfer portal commitments already.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable. Like, he's putting together a football class over here.
Get Wagner process slacker.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, no kidding, man. There's the rumor mill was churning earlier today about DJ Wagner coming to campus this weekend for a visit. I think that was even proclaimed by somebody last week. It didn't happen. My understanding is there's not a visit scheduled this weekend for DJ Wagner. Doesn't mean it won't happen or that it won't happen soon or that it hasn't already happened and we don't know about it. But as I'm told, not expecting Wagner on campus this weekend. But to me, unless Muss really pulls a rabbit out of his hat, or there's a school up in the Northeast that's prepared to, put down a bag and make an offer he can't refuse, all the signs point to Arkansas.
Yeah.
And I think it's exactly what they need. There's a role for him at Arkansas. There's familiarity there, not just with Coach Cal, but with Kenny Payne, with Big Z, with and whoever else they wind up bringing.
Coleman.
Yeah, exactly.
Brad Calipari,
Yeah, there's a lot there. So, and I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I misspoke on the Brad Calipari thing, and they weren't together at Kentucky last year. But I think you're right. Like, the Wagner thing makes a lot of sense at the lead guard spot. He's got to, I remember earlier this week you were like, we're going to do an episode. It's just going to be, I'm going to sell you on DJ Wagner.
It's coming.
And I'll give him credit, and I may have looked over this a little bit because sometimes I'll get hung up on something I read, and I remember the On3 breakdown on him. I guess it was coming out of high school, so it wasn't that long ago. Kind of like the average size, not super explosive, and then you got the ankle. This kid's a really good passer. Mm-hmm. And don't you want, ideally point guards do that? So,
yeah.
I looked up, he was on the right side of the assist to turnover number 21 times last year.
Good.
See if an Arkansas player last year had that.
I'm going to go ahead and tell you no.
It's a no. Yeah, without even doing any looking up. Also, something that's interesting, fairly similar to Tremont Mark in SEC play from deep.
Really?
Yeah. And these numbers they're a little bit they're funny. T Mark was 18 of 55 from deep in league play. DJ Wagner was 15 of 47. It's not all that different.
Right. No, it's really not.
It's really not, but we didn't think of T Mark as a big time perimeter shooter.
Right.
But I didn't absolutely hate it when he took threes. I think we wanted him to take more.
Sure.
And as opposed to another contested pull up from 18,
Right. And what did Wagner shoot on 29% or something from three? I'm not going to sit here and try to convince anybody that DJ Wagner is a 40% 3-point shooter, but I will say he's better than that.
That's what I was going to say. Those numbers probably don't inspire confidence, but it's also it's not that he absolutely can't. I think you got the summer,
right?
And you can also work on your game in season.
Yeah.
Ask junior year spring semester Devo Davis that you can work on your jump shot and improve it in season. Grow the jumper, and then you've got the the assist rate to work with already, and he's a strong guard. DJ is, so I think he's if you're looking to bolster your backcourt, he'd be pretty solid. Agreed.
Yeah, and I think that's, if I'm them, that's the move that I'm really trying to push on. Yeah. Unless maybe you reconsider that if you wind up really being in the mix and can get a guy like a Wooga Poplar or whatever. But I think it makes a ton of sense. And then looking at some of the other options, we've heard. I think it was actually Davion Smith himself who doubled back on a report that was put out by Matt Norlander and was like, no, I've also heard from Arkansas and Louisville. Convenient to put the two biggest NIL payers on your list of schools that have been showing a lot of interest.
Yeah, two of the hotter names in coaching as far as the portal goes.
Right. I don't know that Arkansas is really... I don't doubt that they've been in contact, but I don't know that that's a really serious option for Arkansas. Point guard out of Utah, he started his career at Mississippi State.
Yeah.
And
his profile pick on 3 is in a Mississippi State uni.
He's way better now than he was then. Produced some triple doubles, small guard. Shot
he weighs less than me.
Yeah. Shot it way better this season than he has throughout at any point in his career. But I would be surprised if anything really materialized from that. And after that, I mean, Kadari Richmond, who we've talked about, it's almost like a stat sheet stuffer from Seton Hall. He was another guy it just seemed very likely that he was going to go to St. John's, and he might, or he probably still will. But he's visiting Porter Moser this weekend.
That's crazy.
Which just feels really weird to me that he's taking an Oklahoma
looking for
visit.
Another school, Curtis, where he can put up 460 shots.
That might be exactly right.
That's what he's doing.
Yeah. And so on one hand, you think, yeah, but probably not with a guy like that. But if he's going and visiting Porter Moser, I don't know. What does that tell you? Is it, he might be more open than you thought, and so get in there? Or is there a red flag or something? It's like,
I think he wants complete offensive freedom.
Maybe so. Yeah.
I think that's
You said he put up how many shots?
It was over 450.
Ooh, buddy. That's putting him up there.
Yeah. And we've talked about him a little bit before. He's a guy that, you're going to have to, dedicate some time to watch some full games because the 4 or 5 minute highlight clip of his game just doesn't do him justice. Because he'll just, there was a game, late last season. I might actually pull this up real fast. It was crazy. It was against Georgia. In the semifinal round of the NIT, he went for 15, 9 boards, 6 assists, 1 block, 3 steals. He's that kind of dude. He's going to touch every part of the game when he's in it. I don't. If Arkansas got him, I don't know how it would go with him and Nelly.
Yeah.
Just one ball.
He almost strikes me as more of an Eric Musselman player than a Cal player.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Would agree. I wouldn't, it's hard and it's weird to say that about a guy who can just go get 15, 9, 6 and a couple blocks, a couple steals.
Right.
But it'd be hard. I think it would be a tough pair. Be really good 1-2 on paper, but I don't know. Might have a power struggle going on.
No kidding, man.
At that point with all the offense on that roster.
Give me, for our parting shots here, of all these guys we've talked about, you get 2. Who are the 2 guys that you want to see Arkansas add before this thing's all said and done?
That's a good question.
I know.
Give me Cason Pryor and DJ Wagner.
Okay.
I'm good with that, I think.
Give me...
Am I missing? I may be missing somebody.
No, you're not.
But I think that's...
No, I don't think you're missing anything at all. I was going to go Pryor and Wooga Poplar.
Okay.
But to be different, just get both of those dudes on a private jet, get them on the Chicken Man plane from Miami, and bring Norchad Omier and Wooga Poplar up here, and let's just be done with it.
Oh, there you go.
Let's just be done with it.
Yeah.
But no, in all honesty, though, if I couldn't, and I would absolutely love to have Omier. He's number 1 on this list of everyone we've talked about in terms of who I think is the biggest impact player. But thinking about roster construction, fit, and all that, Poplar, and if I can't say Cason Pryor in an effort to be different, I would even go Arthur Kaluma. Because I think he brings the versatility that maybe you're looking for at that spot.
Yeah.
So we'll go with that.
Yeah, Kaluma's 6'7", 225. He's pretty a rebounder, 35% in league on almost 100 attempts. So he solves some things too. I think that's the reason. I think that's why I like Pryor the most, because he's a guy that you can add to your front court, but he also solves some stuff, in the 3-4 solves a lot in the 3-4 range. Like, could you imagine him playing a 3?
That'd be awesome.
Like, you could do it.
Yeah, you could.
You could do it for sure.
I mean, if Musk can throw out a lineup with Trevin Brazile and Mekhi Mitchell and Jalen Graham on the floor at the same time, why are we talking? Never mind. We're not talking about this. Sorry.
I'm going to throw up.
Oh, man. Okay, well.
It took a lot for me to not say Van Allen Lubin, to be real honest.
Yeah.
I just like him, but I don't
I like
think he doesn't solve enough things. But
Sure.
he'd be a good 4.
Yeah, he'd be really good. Plenty of options.
Yeah.
And so, in summary, if you guys want the too long didn't read version of this podcast that we just recorded, a lot of options at the 4, not many options in terms of. So don't get me wrong, like there are plenty of guys who can make an impact and have a role, but in terms of dudes, not as many options on the wing and at the guard positions right now, as opposed to at that power forward spot. So go get yourself that starting caliber dude at the 4, and then I think you're in business. So anything else before we get out of here? We've said a lot.
No, not that I can think of.
Okay. All right. Well, happy Friday to everybody who's listening. We'll see you when we see you. You know, maybe it'll be early next week and we're recording again. Maybe it'll be, I don't know, interrupting my Sopranos watching later tonight if somebody commits. Either way, when something happens, we'll be here to talk about it.
At least you won't have to potentially pause during Pine Barren since you're through that one.
Got through that one. Yeah, got through that one. And onward. As soon as we're done with this, which is right now. All right, everybody. Well, hey, appreciate people for rocking with us as always. For Scottie Bordelon and Curtis Wilkerson here with Natty State Sports, this has been the pod at the Palace, and we will catch you guys real soon. Everybody take care.